Hello, FPL managers. Welcome to the FPL Optimized podcast. This is episode number 64, in which we will review Game Week 10 and look ahead to Game Week 11. I am Bas, the casual manager, and my co host is Sertalp, the data scientist. This is the podcast in which we combine analytics with the good old eye test. Data or grass, or data and grass? That's the question. Most people seem to have wildcarded either in game week 8 or 10, so today can be a bit more of a regular episode again. Even though for people like me who still have the wildcard left, any week could be a good week to use it, I suppose. Let's see. But before diving into the next game weeks, let's first review how game week 10 went for us. Sertalp, how was it for you?
Yeah, it was a good game week, I will say. My game week rank was around 2.5 million. I got 75 points. Um, so it is good. I mean, I got closer to 100k now. I'm at 111,000
Wow,
roughly.
nice.
The good thing is I got more points than you. So I think it's
Yeah,
a draw now, 5-5.
it is 5
I
5.
told
Well
you I
done.
was giving you some,
Yeah.
some lead. So how was your game week?
Yeah, well, we just looked at it, and I was actually quite pleased during the weekend because most of the players delivered. As you just showed, I ended up with 72 points, which I thought was a good score, but in the end, it was just 6 points more than the average. I was a bit
Mhm.
surprised about it, as in many of my mini leagues, I could see quite a lot of scores in the 50s or the low 60s.
Mhm.
So I expected a decent game week rank, but in the end, it was just 3.5 million. So that's not really something to be happy with. My explanation for that is the following, and I would appreciate your thoughts on it because I was looking at the official FPL Twitter account, and I saw that 4.4 million people captained Haaland versus 2.2 million on Salah, so just half, and 1.1 million on Watkins. And that Haaland captaincy rate was much higher than I expected, as I saw a lot of engaged managers captaining either Salah or Watkins, or also Saka, who also had a decent game on paper, at least versus Sheffield. So yeah, the fact that still 4.4 million people captained Haaland to me means that there are just a lot of sleeping or dead teams, let's say, who left the armband on Haaland, and that's
Mhm.
a challenge, especially for managers like me, whose rank is still quite low. Because whenever Haaland has a good score, all those dead teams will be performing quite well. So that
Mhm.
makes it a bit more difficult to beat the crowd, I think. Would you agree to that analysis? Let's say.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of them are dead teams, obviously, but some of the teams probably didn't have Salah in the first place, or maybe even
Yeah.
Saka. So, as the single premium, it is normal for people to captain Haaland, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah,
in
that's a good point too.
but I think
And
in my
even
opinion, yeah.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think, I'm not saying that it was a stupid decision to captain Haaland because obviously it was not. And I think also people pointed out last week that Haaland against United, he did have quite a good track record. So, definitely you can always captain Haaland, of course. So with just that, looking at the games and also looking at all the discussions also on Twitter last week, you saw a lot of people going either for Salah or Watkins. So that's why I was quite surprised to
Yeah.
see the high percentage of Haaland captainers.
I think I don't believe like a player's stats against certain teams because it's definitely a different team when
Mm.
you play the second time around. And
Yeah,
also
true.
tactics change, managers change. So I don't feel like, this player plays well against this other
No,
team. It doesn't always hold up. Sometimes it
no.
feels like it's so obviously. But in my opinion, like for this game week, captaining Salah or like Saka was a better decision than captaining
Yeah,
Haaland. Just
yeah,
going by the fixture.
yeah.
If some people captain Haaland on purpose, even though they had like Salah or Saka in their teams,
Mhm.
I feel like they will eventually fall off the ranks. I mean, obviously Haaland can get a massive score again and then they will jump again. But I think following fixtures in average will give you a better performance in the long
Yeah,
term. Even though like in a single game week it doesn't feel like it. I think
Mm.
for the long term it will. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't probably too worried about it. The good thing is you finished above the average, so you got a green arrow. It's always good.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. It's just, difficult with Haaland. Yeah, if you don't captain him and he scores,
Yeah,
basically, yeah, you don't really have reason to be happy, right? You should only be happy when you captain him.
true,
Even
true.
though I was thinking, I knew that you didn't have him, so I was thinking like with all the Haaland points, I was quite happy with that. But yeah,
I'm glad
yeah.
you didn't catch me though.
Yeah, no, well, the gap was close, but indeed, it's a 5-5 score, and then in our head-to-head league, I think I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
a 5-2 gap at some point. So yeah, you caught up. Well done.
yeah.
So yeah, time for me to fight back. Um, all right. Well, at least my rank improved, and I'll try to keep doing that week by week. Even though at the rate I'm doing it now, it will take a while to get back to a
hmm
respectable ranking.
hmm
Anyway, let's go on, and I'd like to propose to do something different today. As usually, we end with talking about our mini league, but for today, let's cover this now. As actually, we received a really nice message during the weekend. Derek Haswell tweeted us on Sunday, and he said the following. He said, I think my 9-year-old son just made it to the top of the FPL optimized mini league. It's his first season playing. Sertalp, Bas, we love watching your pod. So, yeah, that was a really nice message to get. Thanks a lot, Derek. And yeah, we checked it, and indeed, we can see a certain Wyatt Haswell on the number 3 spot this week. So, I think
Yes.
that's Wyatt, the 9-year-old son of Derek. So congratulations, Wyatt. Really impressive that you're doing so well in your first season playing FPL. And yeah, Wyatt's team is called Fun in the Sun. He had a game week score of 81 points and now a total score of 711 points. Yeah, really impressive, Wyatt.
That's
Keep it
really
up.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm a bit jealous, man. I wish I was there. Well done, Wyatt. And well, it's also interesting to see that the complete top three in our mini league changed this week. So on number 2, we can see Keegan Stevenson with his team Space Monkey FC. He had a great game week with 98 points and a total of 717 points. And I looked at his team, and yeah, especially his front line delivered the big points. He had Darwin with 10 points, he had Nketiah with 17 points,
Oh,
and he
awesome.
captained Haaland with 32 points. So yeah, Keegan was one of the Haaland captainers. Well done, big points
Well
for
done.
him that week. And the number 1 of the week is Jay Hampson with his team Two Faced. The game week score was actually not too high. It was just 67 points, but it was sufficient to claim the top spot in our mini league. And Jay Hampson has a total score of 719 points and an OR of 758. So that's also really impressive. Yeah, keep it up, everyone. And if you still want to join the mini league, the code is 0JSDLA. We currently have 318 teams in the league, but the more the merrier. So please still win.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the mini league. So let's now switch to the data side of things as we
hmm
prepare for game week 11. And first, let's take a look at the model utility chart.
Yeah, certainly. And so again, we talk about the total points as a model utility measure. And here we are picking 5 goalkeepers, 15 defenders, 50 midfielders, and 10 forwards, just the top 10. And so it's a total of 45 players from every model without any restriction, any price restriction or whatsoever. And then we're just checking how many points they collect. We are also adding the captaincy point to the top player. And so this is again is giving us an idea about how useful the model is to the users.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first rank we have Mikkel Tokmam's transfer algorithm.
Okay.
So if you remember, he was in the second rank, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, last week, and then he passed FPL review. FPL review as at the second place. Then we
Okay.
have Fantasy Football Scout, Fantasy Football Fix, Draft Hound, and FPL team. We
Yeah.
also show Fantasy Football Hub in this chart usually, but I think this week I had a issue with pulling their data, so I need to pay some attention to see if the data was correct.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's only 28 points between Mikhail Tokmam's model and FPL review, and then another 15 points between review and scout, 5 points between
Hmm.
scout and fix. And then there's some gap to draft hunt, and finally we have FPL team again. So this was the model utility ranks.
Okay. So, and I think it's the first time that Mikael is number one, right?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I think he had a
Okay.
particularly good week.
Interesting. All right. So we might have to pay more attention to his model then.
Hmm. Yeah, his model is used quite often in the analytics
Okay.
community. FPL review and
Right.
Mikhail Tokman, because
Yeah.
um, even like my Python solver is compatible with both FPL review and Mikhail Tokman's data.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well then. All right. Thanks for covering that again. So as usual, now we'll go to the overview of the best and worst teams based on expected value, both for attacking and defensive values.
And so we have Manchester City back again at the top spot. Um,
Okay.
and then we have Arsenal in the second spot. We will talk about their fixtures, but we have Liverpool in the third spot, and then Brighton, then Newcastle, Manchester United, Tottenham, Aston Villa, Brentford, and West Ham. So the reason why Manchester City is at the first place again is basically we are giving more weight to this short-term
Mm.
fixtures. So that, and
Mm-hmm.
then this week's fixture is very favorable. They are playing against
Right.
Bournemouth at home, and their
Yeah.
defense average is 5.3 points, expected points, and then 5.8 is the average of offense players. So it
Yeah.
is a very favorable fixture. Like if you are
Yeah.
checking this chart on YouTube, you can also notice that it should be one of the highest, if not the highest, in this horizon. Any
Yeah.
team against any team. So which is a big concern for people who doesn't have any Manchester City players, or even like Haaland, like me. I don't even have
Yes.
Alvarez.
Yeah.
So it is a really good fixture. And
Yeah.
Arsenal is playing against Newcastle, which dropped their uh, place to the second rank. But
Okay.
besides that, they have some good fixtures coming up. Burnley in game week 12, Wolves game week 14, both at home, and then Luton Town in game week 15 at away. So they are the
Yeah.
favorable fixtures in their horizon. And then we
Yeah.
have Liverpool at the third place. They're playing against Luton Town, so it is also a good favorable fixture, I will say.
Yeah.
4.4 is their defense average, and 5.1 is their offense average.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Any comment from your side?
Not too much. Not too much. No, I did want to ask if you're starting to panic a little bit without Haaland.
Maybe a little bit, but I knew what I was doing when
Yeah.
I dropped him. I
Yes.
think the stress is on Haaland owners or captains,
Right.
because they feel like if Haaland blanks, then it will
Yeah.
be really bad for them, because then
Yeah.
they have Chelsea and Liverpool coming, like two, relatively difficult fixtures. Um,
No.
so yeah, I feel like the pressure is on Holland owners, even though they try to make it
Yeah.
look like we are very worried. I mean, I'm not worried. I
No,
know
that's
what
true.
Holland can do, but I'm prepared.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. This was the game week. I think we kind of circled in our calendar. Game week 11 at home against Bournemouth. This is when Haaland hopefully will deliver. I saw some people tweeting that it could even be a good triple captaincy option. Personally, I would still wait for a double game week, but I do think people will be considering it. But yeah, let's see. You never know. And as you said, Liverpool plays Luton, so that's not too bad either. Even though it's Luton away, I don't think we have seen some big scores there yet. Yeah, but still, I think for Liverpool, definitely it's a good game. No, the other thing I just wanted to mention is also Brighton. They had a few more difficult fixtures, but now
Hmm.
as of game week 12, so actually the next one, Well, you could already say this one, 11. They play Everton away, but Everton is improving, so I wouldn't call that an easy fixture. But after that, they play against Sheffield, and then Nottingham, and then a bit later also Burnley. So I think their fixtures are improving.
Hmm.
But of course, Brighton is rotating quite a lot, so that makes it a bit more difficult there.
Yeah.
But one thing to keep an eye on is Estupinen, because there is this rumored that he might be ready already for game week 11, and if it's not 11, then probably 12.
Hmm.
So that would be one to keep an eye on. All right, so these are the best teams. Now let's look at the worst teams, and no surprise, I see Luton again at the top.
Again, Luton Town, and then Sheffield United, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Burnley, Fulham, Chelsea. Chelsea keeps getting higher in this list for some reason, and then
Yeah,
Wolves, Everton, and Crystal Palace is their order. And Luton Town is obvious. I mean, they're also playing against Liverpool this game week. Even though it's at home, their defense average is 2.3, so they are likely to concede. But actually, Bournemouth again. I mean, just the opposite. Bournemouth has a worse fixture actually for this game week specifically against
yeah.
Manchester City. So it's 1.8 defensive average. So not even two. It's almost fascinating to see these. And then 3.1
Yeah.
is their offense point average. And yeah, so again, Chelsea is here, but I feel like they will get eventually better, but their fixture is one of the most difficult here. So they play against Tottenham and then Manchester City, then Newcastle, and then they have Manchester United in game week 15. So
Yeah,
again, it's a tough period for them. But
yeah,
despite that, none of these fixtures are making to the bottom 10 percentile. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's true, and I think we mentioned it earlier. Chelsea, they really have a tough run. But even last week when you thought they had an easier game against Brentford, they
Yeah,
actually
that's
lost
true.
it. So yeah, it's really a strange team this season, Chelsea. Yeah? Because at some moments you think they are improving, and then they lose against Brentford. Now, of course, they will have a tough fixture run. So let's see how they get out of that. Because after that, yeah, the fixtures get better. So could be a time to jump on them. But let's first see how they will deal with the next difficult fixtures.
And James will be available soon, I think, right?
Yeah, but for how long is the question?
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately, yeah. We wish him all the best, of course. Yeah, and Nkunku might be back. I heard, so that could
Mm-hmm.
also be an interesting one.
Yep.
So yeah, let's keep an eye on that. Okay, excellent. So we covered the teams, and usually we now look at the players who gained and dropped in EV. But I think we don't have the data yet for that, do we, Sertalp?
Yeah, we don't have the data for it, but I checked the top 10 players from every model, so I can actually
Okay.
share that information. So,
Yeah.
so this is for next 7 game weeks, because that was
Right.
the lowest horizon by any model.
Yeah.
Just to have a fair comparison, I just collected all the points from all the players and then just
Yeah.
sorted them by total EV. So
Mm-hmm.
at the top we have the ensemble model. So we are taking the average of all models and then ordering players. So that order is like goes like this. So we have Haaland at the first place. I
Yeah.
know, Haaland is very good. And then we have Salah at 49 points, and Haaland was at 53. Sorry.
Yeah.
Son is at 40 points, Mubemo 38, Saka 36, Bruno Fernandes 34, Watkins 33, Foden is 33, Madison 33, and then we have Rashford in the 10th place with 33 expected points.
Yeah.
Again, this is the average for the next 7 game weeks. Haaland is at the first place in every model that we are looking at
Mm.
here. And for
Yeah.
the second rank, it's usually Salah, except Fantasy Football Hub thinks that Son is at the second place, so Son is expected to
Okay.
get more points than Salah in their model, but
Yeah.
Salah is at the third place. Um, so obviously having Mubemo here is a good thing, at least for me to see, because like he's at the fourth place, he's a cheap player, so I
Yeah.
am happy to see that models like more or less agree that he's a really good pick. He's in
Hmm.
top 10 in every model. Even though in some models he's at ninth place, but he's in one model he's at the third place. I think it's FPL team. Yes, it's FPL team. Um, Besides that, I mean, Manchester United players are a little bit low, but Fantasy Football Scott seems to think that Bruno Fernandes at third place. He's ahead of like Saka, Odegaard, and other popular picks like Son or Mubemo. Um,
Hmm.
so, and going through the FBR reviews list, it is Haaland, Salah, Son, exactly the same with the ensemble, and then Mubemo, and then Saka, and then review has Odegaard. I think that was also part of my reason to trying to schedule a transfer to get Odegaard. Actually, my
Right.
plan was to get him last game week.
Right.
That was the plan until the last day that we realized that Bruno Fernandez actually, oh sorry, Saka rose in price, I think.
Yeah.
So we couldn't have the move. So I was going to send
Oh yeah.
Madison to get Odegaard. I couldn't do it, but glad I didn't do it because Madison
Yeah.
got the points. Um, but yeah, review thinks that Arsenal midfielders are ahead of other options like Fernandez or even Rashford in this list. Um, Again, Watkins is almost everywhere. If you're using a model, it's probably very likely that you have Watkins in your team anyway. And again, Foden here is a kind of a wild pick, in my opinion. Not every model rates him so high, but
Mhm.
he's the fourth best player in Fantasy Football Fix's model. And also he's at the third spot in Draft Hound's model. So
Mm.
yeah, he's a player to keep an eye on,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Hey, but I just realized that I actually was quite unlucky that I didn't beat your score because it was just because you kept Madison instead of Odegaard, right?
So you feel like okay, maybe you should get the sixth win or
Yeah, man. Otherwise, if you would have stuck to your plan, I would have beat your score. But anyway,
well,
that's how it goes. But I
obviously that's
did
how it
see
goes.
some. I think the Saka price rise. Indeed, I think it wasn't predicted by the pricing model, so I think a lot of people were surprised about it, and that
Yeah,
created some issues. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bruno. Man United. If you look at their fixtures, they play now against Fulham, then Luton, then Everton. So really good fixtures. And normally, yeah, we would of course jump on Bruno or Rashford, but yeah, United are just struggling, right? So I don't think it's an easy decision, or it's not an obvious decision to make that move now.
yeah,
And Mbuemo, yeah, really kudos to you for keeping him because also against Chelsea last game week he delivered. He does have a few difficult fixtures coming up now, right? He
yeah,
plays well this week. It's West Ham at home, so that's decent. But then Liverpool away, and then Arsenal at home.
yeah,
So I will. I mean, my plan is to get him back after those games, but
yeah.
let's see. Okay, thanks for covering that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think yeah. So that gives us again a good look on the players as we
Mm-hmm.
usually do. So that helps us to consider it for the transfer plans. And yeah, let's now move then to the optimal team, as that will also give us another view on the key players we should be considering this week.
Okay, so like I keep changing how I'm taking these wild like optimal wildcard teams.
Okay.
And this week instead of having the ensemble model, I decided to run all the models separately and based on how many game weeks they provide. So starting with Mikael has only 7 game weeks of data for the future horizon. Uh,
Yeah.
so I will start with that one. So Mikael's wildcard 11 optimal team consists of Leno and Areola as goalkeepers and Saliba, Tsimikas, Ruben Diaz, Varane, and Baldock in defense.
Yeah.
Mubemo, Mitoma, Salah, Son, Hee-chan in
Okay.
midfield, and Watkins, Foster, and Haaland as forwards.
Right.
Fantasy Football Scout has data until the end of the like game week 38, so they have data for the entire horizon.
Okay.
but I limited it to 12 game weeks to so that we can actually compare with others.
Yeah.
So it scouts optimal wildcard 11 teams. Again, these are the teams with no scheduled transfers. Consists of Leno and Areola in goal, Estupinan, Aldakil, Taylor, Varane, Trippier in defense, Mubemo, Salah, Fernandez, Hichan, Diaby in midfield,
Mm-hmm.
and we have Watkins, Foster, and Haaland in forward.
Okay.
So it's a somewhat similar picks with the Mikel Tokmas model. And then we have FPL review, 12 game weeks. We have Flecken and Areola as goalkeepers, Gabriel, Tsimikas, Pau, Guardiol, Castagne in
Hmm.
defense, Saka, Mubemo, Gross, Salah, Palmer in midfield, and we have Watkins, Alvarez, and Haaland. It is a little bit interesting because the last few game weeks, FPL review wasn't actually suggesting any Brighton midfielders
Hmm.
when we were checking, and people were kind of asking me about it, uh, whether I know why Brighton midfielders are not in the optimal team. But this week, Gross made to the list.
Okay.
And also we talked about having Tsimikas and Palmer as options actually enables you to get both like
Right.
Salah, Haaland, and still have a
Yeah.
really good team.
Yeah.
And that's still the case. And next we have Fantasy Football Hub with 12 game weeks. It has Turner and Ederson in the goal,
Okay.
and then Zinchenko, Estupinan, Trippier, Pedro Porro, Guardiol in defense, Mubemo, Bruno Fernandes, Gordon, Madison, Son in midfield, so
Hmm.
we don't have Salah here, and
Hmm.
Archer, Haaland, and Wilson in the forward. So some interesting picks, especially Wilson, Gordon, that we don't see from other models too often, and also
Yeah.
a premium goalkeeper, Ederson. Um, and Fantasy Football Fix for 8 game weeks. Their optimal consists of Leno and Areola in the goal, Pinnock, Anderson, Yeyi, Tsimikas, and Kufal in defense,
Hmm.
Mitoma, Salah, Foden, Son, Ichan in midfield, and we have Watkins, Foster, and Haaland as the forward picks. So forward picks are roughly the same. I mean, this Watkins, Foster, Haaland. I also see it from Mikel and Scott as the
Yeah.
optimal. But yeah, there are some interesting picks from some models.
Yeah. Hmm.
Any
Okay.
team
Well,
that you like more than the others?
this is a lot of data to consider.
Hmm.
No, I think, based on what we've seen from the models and the performance, I would say probably we should focus on the teams from FPL Review and Mikau.
Mm.
Um, but even between the two, we see a few differences actually, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, the forward line in reviews optimal is pretty strong with Watkins, Alvarez, and Haaland.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think almost up to this point, I was always playing 3-5-2 as a formation. So it actually made me a little bit surprised to see there are three forwards in this case. But I
yeah,
think that having no scheduled transfer as a constraint actually changes the team a little bit fundamentally because you are kind of assuming that you will keep the same team without making any transfers. That should be also
yeah,
the case where Estupinan appears because I mean we know that he will be available. So even if he
yeah,
doesn't play this game week, if you are optimizing for like 12 game weeks, then
yeah,
you probably want to have him. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and the other point is also what we talked about last week, that we now have quite many enablers.
Yeah,
We
that's
have
true.
Tsimikas in defense. We have in the midfield. We have, for example, yeah, people now considering Hichan. While FPL review has Gross, Palmer,
Yeah.
Gordon is also, of course, an enabler. And then in attack, we see Foster in three out of the five teams. So
Yeah.
that of course also helps to make the rest of the teams quite strong. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thanks for covering that.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
do you already know what you will do with your team this week?
I don't know actually. I think I have two free transfers. Uh but I haven't checked. How
No,
about
okay.
you?
Yeah.
Have you decided
Well,
what
I
to
have
do?
one free transfer, and I was my plan. So I have a kind of plan to get Mbuemo back in 3 weeks from now, and in order to do that, step one was to sell Shar this week, and sell him for Tsimikas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably do that. So that's gives me some extra budget, and I'll need that budget later on to upgrade Luis from Aston Villa to Mbuemo. But yeah, my main weakness at the moment is Antonio from West Ham. Yes, I'm one of the 3.5% managers who own him, and mostly because of his low price and because West Ham had quite good fixtures. But yeah, unfortunately, Antonio isn't doing much. So, and also now after the previous game week, I think he was subbed in the 58th minute or something like that. So I wonder if
Somewhat.
his starting spot is still secure. So that could be the other thing to look at. Maybe I should fix my weak spot, but even if I want to fix it, still it will be for another low budget attacker. So maybe João Pedro or Eduard from Crystal Palace. So I think they will do better than Antonio, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
not much better. So I don't think I'm not sure if it's worth the transfer. So still something for me to figure out. And yeah, by the way, I'll be at a Premier League game this weekend because we're in London with the family, and I managed to get tickets for the Brentford West Ham game.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so just for that reason, it could be maybe nice to
Wait.
keep Antonio and
Yeah, I
hope
was
hope
going to
hope
say,
he'll do
like,
something.
you should keep him.
Yeah, but if he's on the bench, it's even worse, of course. But
Well, at least you will be watching him on the bench live,
yeah,
so that
and I
that will
can
be super.
can I can cross my fingers then that he might come on and score a late goal. So yeah, I might keep him actually. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, if I'm going to any like Premier League games in the future, I will try to get 6 players from that
Oh
match
yeah.
alone. Yeah, maybe even
Okay.
worth having a free hit for. I don't know. Like I don't want to
Really?
derail your plans, but
Oh.
if I'm
Well, I
watching a
still have my
game,
wild card. I could still use it.
oh yeah, there you go.
Load up on Brentford and West Ham players. Yeah, why not? No, well, let's see. Still a few days left to make some plans.
Hmm.
And the other thing, of course, to consider is also who to captain. So, as last
Hmm.
data point for the pot, as we always do, let's look at the captaincy options. And as we mentioned before, I think the managers who don't have Haaland might be a bit worried this week, right?
Yes, so it's funny, but it is just insane what the EV is for Haaland this game week. It is
Hmm.
9.32 in the ensemble model, if you take the average. He is the
Okay.
most popular pick. He's the top pick in every single model we are
Okay.
checking.
Yeah.
And then the closest player is Salah with only 7.8. So there is a big difference between the two, almost like
Okay.
1.5 EV. Um, so it is concerning, but I was also checking, what's the probability of, any of them outscoring another. And I feel like there is a almost like a 40% chance for Salah to outscore Haaland. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a big majority, I think maybe 55% for Haaland to outscore Salah. So there
Yeah.
is still some chance that Salah might be able to get more points. But then, yeah, I feel like it's going to be difficult. I will be behind my sofa, but I kind of feel like it's also doable. Let's see. I will be also crossing my fingers if it matters.
Yeah.
And then we have Mubemo at the third rank with 6 EV, and then Son at 5.8, and then Foden with 5.6. I was surprised to see Son and then Ensemble model average high because they're playing against Chelsea, but then again, we talked about Chelsea not playing too well. I think some of the models are picking up more of those kind of recent results more than others because I see that Son is at the second place in Fantasy Football Hub's model after Haaland.
Yeah.
Again, there's a big difference between Haaland and Son, but still a option if you are looking for something really different.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a bit worried about Mabuemo because I just said I will go to the Brentford game and I don't have him. So that will be an issue, I think.
Like, can you actually buy him? Is there any
Mm,
player you can?
yeah, that will. Yeah,
You're still
then
considering. That's good.
I
Maybe
would
think
have to
about it.
sell one of my midfielders, which I don't really want to do either, or I need to get a point hit. So no, probably I'll be without him.
Yeah, it seems like people don't know what to do with Mbemo because he also dropped in price earlier this week, and
Did
then
he?
yeah, and then he rose in price. So he's
Okay,
back at where he started. I
okay,
think it was after deadline. I think he dropped.
yeah.
But yeah,
But I'm planning to buy him back in like 3 weeks from now, so I'll use this weekend as a scouting trip.
oh okay. I'm curious to hear your eye test reports
Yeah.
next
Okay.
week's episode.
Yeah, I'll do that next week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. I think we covered everything, right,
Mm-hmm.
Sertalp?
Yes, but we haven't talked about your jersey today.
Oh, right. Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm almost at the end of my collection, but today it's Sampdoria shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I mentioned in the previous podcast that in my younger years, I was a big Gullit fan, Ruud Gullit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if people know that, but of course, his most successful period was at AC Milan. But then at the end of that period, actually, he also played for Sampdoria for 1 or 2 seasons. And so I started following Sampdoria Genoa. And yeah, I bought the shirt back then. So this is the 93-94 away shirt. And actually, it's still one of my favorite shirts. I think it's quite a nice shirt.
Yeah,
So
looks
yeah,
good.
that's about the shirt. Yeah.
Wow, it's a very very old jersey too.
It's old, yes. Still lying in
Yeah.
my closet. Still good quality.
Do you have any jerseys left after this? You said you are getting at the end of your collection,
Yeah,
so
yeah, still a few left. Last week I was wearing a Juventus shirt. We didn't talk about it, but that was also an old one, old Juventus shirt. I think I still
hmm
have a Parma shirt. So maybe I'll keep that one for next week. Parma. Yes.
okay, okay. Do you feel the pressure
More.
to get more jerseys if you run out of your collection?
Yeah, wow, that's a good point. And I mentioned that we're in London, so I might go to the Brentford store. Let's see if they have some nice shirts there. Or I found an address for a retro shirts shop. So my son and I, we probably will pass by and see if they have some nice shirts there.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Well, that was it for this week. I'll close it. This was FPL Optimized Podcast, episode number 64. Thanks for listening and good luck with making your Game Week 11 decisions. We hope your arrow will be green. We'll be back with another episode next week. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you'll get notified when the next episode is released. And do follow us on Twitter. For Sertalp, it's at Sertalp Bilal, and for me, it's at Belfi BB. And as you probably know by now, you can also find FPL Optimized on YouTube.
And until next time, stay curious and stay analytical. Goodbye.
Goodbye.